Since the creation of this country in the United States, historically, marriage has been an important and esteemed social institution.
Marriage outdated. 2 in 5 young adults think the tradition no longer matters.
About 1 in 3 American adults are single. They say they're single, though women outnumber men. Apparently one expert right here says that men are actually out of their depth in the dating pool.
So Dr. Wendy Walsh says modern men are struggling to find a mate, and it is taking a toll on society at large.
Love may be in the air this Valentine's Day, but fewer people are getting married in Louisiana. The number has dropped 21% since 2011.
Americans have viewed marriage as the bedrock to healthy families and communities and vital to the functioning of democracy itself. But now, nearly half of all marriages are ending in divorce. People are getting married later than they used to. The proportion of adults who never marry is remaining low, but steadily increasing. Roughly 1/3 of births are to unmarried parents, and unmarried cohabitation went from a socially stigmatized practice to a natural part of the evolution of adulthood.
Right now, what I see happening is sort of the last vestiges of this uber conservative movement. They're working really hard to recruit as many people as they can into a more conservative ideology. And they're doing that because they know that the majority of folks do not align with the hyper-restrictiveness of their politics.
To understand the changing landscape of love and marriage, there are 2 models that people mainly follow. One is called the transformation of intimacy, and the other is called the deinstitutionalization of marriage. The transformation of intimacy is a love model that focuses on both partners coming together and desiring to be together for the sake of a relationship. Through this model, a relationship is only maintained as long as both partners want to engage in that relationship. Intimacy is established through intense communication, but the threat of a breakup always looms. In today's changing landscape of love and marriage, family and religious traditions have lost their influence. So through the transformation of intimacy model, people are more likely to choose someone as an individualized choice for an intimate partner. They also foster a greater sense of autonomy. These pure relationships lead to enhancement of a romantic relationship, more happiness within those relationships, and a greater sense of autonomy. The other model that discusses the changing landscape of love and marriage is the deinstitutionalization of marriage. What this means is that people now have a greater sense of freedom in creating a marriage that looks like whatever they want it to look like. They define the rules of their marriage instead of society defining the rules of their marriage.
Marriage was never really designed for romantic love. It wasn't until the 1800s-ish that people started looking around going, wow, spouses hate each other. We have to sex this up a little bit and make it interesting. So this was the origination of things like soap, right? To make people want to actually be closer to each other and reduce some of those like sensory things that created a lot of animosity between marriage partners. And yeah, there was a full-on marketing campaign to make marriage more interesting. And this is when marriage, the contract of marriage, started to be paired together with love. And it was an active campaign to get people to have these love relationships now. And that seemed to make things so much better. But what happened is there wasn't a lot of like building of the foundation of that. So it became this sort of glossy, shiny promise of what could be without a lot of real practical tools on how to make that last. And when you couple that with our much longer lifespans in today's world, it's often a recipe for disaster for people, which is why we see the marriage rates and divorce rates, the marriage rates declining and divorce rates increasing. Yeah, there's a lot of skills that people, I think, would benefit from learning to improve their relationships and their marriages.
Several factors have contributed to marriage's deinstitutionalization, including the rise of unmarried childbearing, the changing division of labor in the home, the growth of unmarried cohabitation, and the emergence of same-sex marriage. These large-scale trends have led to people questioning the link between marriage and parenting, the link between complementary gender roles in the home, and even the connection between marriage and heterosexuality. However, marriage still has a lot of symbolic significance in the United States in terms of perceived achievement and prestige. In terms of politics, marriage plays a big role in terms of perceived electability of a politician. So it's still viewed as a social symbol. We've discussed a couple of different models about why there is a decline in marriage, but what we haven't discussed is how political polarization is playing a role in simply there being fewer marriage prospects. Marriage rates are falling fast. People are divorcing more, they're marrying later, and more people are deciding not to marry at all. There's a rising difficulty in the dating world in finding a partner who meets somebody's needs of emotional, physical, financial, and political values.
So there's been a lot of research and documentation around the intentional brainwashing of young men and recruitment into right-wing ideology. And a lot of young men are so lonely and they're so eager for community, although they don't want to admit that they fall really vulnerable and they fall prey to it. So what I think we're seeing right now is that a lot of these young men are drinking the Kool-Aid, thinking that it's the answer, thinking that they can power themselves back into a relationship that is secure for them by adhering to these traditional values, right? The man is valued in that ideology. He's valued as the head of household, the authority. And I think a lot of young men are drunk with the idea that that will give them relational security. And so they're running, leaping, jumping into that ideology as a way to shore up a sense of personal worth and a sense of personal power.
This ideological divide between the sexes is deepening, and it's providing an issue if folks want to get married. So the solution to this is that men need to stop going down right-wing pipelines into conservative ideology and join up with the single liberal young men so that they can get married and have happy marriages where their political views align with their partner. That's the solution. With the movement in political polarization, what this means is that far more conservative men exist than conservative women, and far more liberal women exist than liberal men. And so that is creating anemia in terms of relationships, and fewer young people are getting married because they simply cannot find a partner aligned in their life goals and in their values. And this is the politics of sex.